In 2022, a new horror film was released that caused quite a stir around the world. A movie so brutal people were being sick in the theatres. After a number of requests to review this film on the channel, I finally did it, and when I tell you now, this is hardcore horror at its finest. So get yourselves strapped in and let's take a look at Terrifier 2. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I am going to be reviewing one of the most talked about horror movies in 2022, and that is of course Terrifier 2. A lot of my subscribers have asked me to review this one, and as much as I knew this was going to be a bloody and brutal movie, I was not prepared for what I was about to see. I went into this movie thinking that it was just going to be one of those gore fests with little to no story, but I was very surprised to actually really enjoy it. I mean, it's totally disturbing and this movie is not for the faint-hearted, but honestly, I thought it was great. I've never even watched the first Terrifier movie, I just jumped straight into this one. It's definitely one of the most goriest and most shocking horror films that I have seen in a very long time. So what is Terrifier 2 about? Well, it's about a creepy clown called Art, and in the start of the movie, he seems to be somehow resurrected by some strange entity, which makes me assume that he was killed in the first film, which would kind of make him a kind of Michael Myers slash Freddy Krueger kind of killer. Now Art the clown, he goes on a full killing rampage throughout this movie, but Art is actually targeting a girl named Sienna and her younger brother Jonathan. It turns out that Art is returning to the same hometown a year later from the first movie, but of course everyone thinks that he is dead. So the movie features around Halloween, which I really like because I love Halloween season, and I always feel that when a horror film is centered around Halloween, it always gives it that much more atmosphere. Now it turns out that the younger brother Jonathan has been displaying some concerning signs when he's basically googling serial killers, and he just appears to the rest of his family as a little bit of an oddball who may find some therapy to be beneficial. So I wasn't sure where the storyline was going. I wasn't sure whether if this little brother was gonna go into some killing machine and team up with Art the clown killer, and as I said, I went into this movie completely blind and the storyline was keeping me guessing all the way through. Let's talk about some of the death scenes in this movie because there are quite a few, but I think the one that really disturbed me the most was Ali's death scene in the bedroom. Art ends up attacking Ali when she is home alone, and he literally ends up ripping this poor girl apart. He rips off her scalp, he de-skins her back, he snaps one of her arms off, slices her face and her eyeball, and there are no cutaways in any of these death scenes. You witness and watch the whole thing unfold, and just when you think that things can't get any worse for Ali, she somehow crawls across the floor of what's left of her, and then Art runs back into the room and douses Ali in bleach and salt. And when Ali's mum comes home later on in the movie, her mum finds Art with Ali's mutilated body, and then Ali lifts up her mutilated head and she calls out for her mum. It's proper messed up, but at the same time you cannot help but congratulate the makers of the movie of creating such a horrifying scene, because let's face it, it's what horror films are meant to do, horrify you, and in my opinion, they did a great job. If you're a bit queasy about eyeballs, then this movie may not be for you because there are some horrific scenes involving eyeballs. In the opening scene, Art ends up ripping out this guy's eye and then he places it into his own eye socket. Now, my partner Peter, he watches all of these horror films with me, but he cannot handle any kind of eyeball scene, so I basically had to let him know when this scene was over because he was on the verge of vomiting. There is another scene where Sienna Sienna's mum is shot in the face, and then later on when the young brother Jonathan comes home, he finds his mum's dead body just sitting at the dinner table with her face all mashed in. And then in walks Art with dinner, before shoving some mashed potato into what's left of the mother's face. There's also a scene where a guy is repeatedly stabbed between his legs before Art cuts off a piece of the penis and then he taunts the girlfriend with this penis. It's safe to say that Art the Clown is one of the most sickest psychopaths in modern horror. And what makes it even more horrifying is that the movie really shows us just how much Art enjoys what he does. He doesn't just want to kill his victims, he wants to torture them both physically and mentally, keeping most of them alive for as long as possible as he mutilates them in horrific ways. There's a couple of decapitation scenes where Art ends up using the heads, one as a prop in a Halloween shop, and then another is used as a bowl for candy that the kids grab when they are trick-or-treating. There's even a scene where Art rips out someone's heart and then eats it. Like I said, this is proper hardcore horror and it's not for the faint-hearted, which is why I am limited to what photos that I can use in today's video. I honestly felt like that there were no rules in this movie, anything could literally happen and it did. At one point you've got the younger brother Jonathan being injected and later on being whipped and beaten really badly before Art starts to try eating his legs, and bear in mind Jonathan is around 12 years old. So apart from the gore and the disturbing scenes, I actually quite liked this story. It was interesting learning about Sienna's family history with the dad committing suicide and that he had drawn these images in a book. You saw the struggles of the mum having to look after a daughter and also a son who were both troubled in their own little ways. I also loved the imagery in this movie, particularly in the final act where the whole final battle is taking place at an old fairground and in a scary haunted house ride. There were some scenes where me and Peter literally jumped out of our skins when all of these mannequins and monsters were jumping out and flying through the air. I loved the final battle between Sienna and Art. I mean, Sienna, she is one badass final girl who, in my opinion, will definitely go down as a fantastic final girl character in horror films. I will be totally honest, I didn't quite get the ending where Sienna was in that box full of water and she appeared to have died, only for her sword to bring her back to life. I didn't understand the whole thing, but I have seen that there is a YouTube video explaining the ending, which I am gonna go and watch, but nevertheless, I really enjoyed this film. I loved the final battle between Sienna and Art. At one point, I did think that both Sienna and Jonathan were both gonna die and that the film was going to end with Art the Clown literally killing every character, which is quite rare, but Art did get his just desserts in the end, even though he did keep coming back until his head was basically chopped off. There's also this creepy girl clown. I'm not sure who she is, or she's maybe a character from the first film, but she kept popping up, and at one point I thought it was all in Art's crazy head, but both Sienna and Jonathan could see this girl clown, so I'm not sure whether she's real or not, but she was flipping creepy, especially at the end when she picks up Art's decapitated head and starts to play with it like a doll. Could there be a third sequel? Who knows? I mean, Art seemed pretty dead by the end of this movie, but he was already dead from the first film and brought back, so maybe the crazy girl clown will sew Art's head back onto his body and Art will return one more time. All I know is I would actually be okay for a third sequel. I found this whole movie was fucked up, disturbing, incredible, jumpy in certain places and unpredictable. As messed up as this movie is, I also found it extremely entertaining. I loved the music that they used. It felt very 80s throughout the whole movie, and it's quite rare these days for a horror film to shock me. I definitely need to rewatch this again at some point. Maybe it will be a movie that I will watch this coming Halloween, but I totally recommend this movie to to any horror fan. So guys, let's hear some of your thoughts on Terrifier 2. What did you think of this movie? Did the movie freak you out? Did it shock you? Did it make you laugh? Or was it all of the above? There's no wrong or right answers here guys, everyone's opinions matter on this channel, so get typing in that comments box below. Okay then guys, well thank you all for watching today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all again very soon.